I was just talking about the chemical unconscious, and then the Wilson Bryan Key, and then what McLuhan meant. Oh yeah. So so McLuhan says in Newsweek magazine that Madison Avenue couldn't condition a mouse. So in this quote we have Marshall talking about the subconscious and how we can exploit the unconscious, and it's a great source of wealth. This is what he's saying in the mid 60s. What is the subconscious he's talking about? And how are we exploiting it? If Madison Avenue can condition a mouse. So he means something else by the subconscious that's being exploited. And in many ways, the use of written language, spoken language, photography, the older analog media were obsolete under satellite conditions. So they could be used as an orchestration, or at least pretending or imagining one could manipulate people through those older media, and the conditioning would work on those people who were subject to those older media. But you had in the North America a collective consciousness growing where people were not influenced by media in the old way. They actually were getting pretty indifferent to the old media. This is in the 70s and 80s. They were responding to cable TV and the newer electronic environments, and then eventually personal computers. That's what they were excited about. But they didn't feel manipulated. So when Marshall talks about the subconscious being an art form, you have to distinguish the chemical body subconscious, which marketing thought it was controlling through the older image of basically the world of fashion, pictorial, verbal, and written imagery that would be in your normal advertising. And with the collective consciousness happening around as the actual present, then the unconscious that McLuhan wanted to talk about was the media unconscious, which he had a world monopoly on understanding. That's what he would have done if given the chance. He would have orchestrated environments and controlled the rapidity of change, which he said was creating a condition of anarchy. But if you understand the media unconscious, you could get a handle on it. But the subculture of Madison Avenue, in relation to what McLuhan was talking about, was a puny operation. But that was, as he said, people who have no better way of spending their time, let them earn money, let them engage in the activity of making money. So you have this abundance that's spreading from the 60s up till the 2000s, where people are experiencing more and more consumer wealth and consumer credit. And that is a old form of the Gutenberg unconscious. And that was allowed to run free. Now, when you brought in the second and third world cultures once the Cold War was over, the military organizations had to organize the political organization of old Gutenberg structures. So here's McLuhan talking about the subconscious being an art form. You have to look at several forms of the subconscious: the chemical body subconscious, the TV unconscious, and then the digital unconscious, which I call the android meme. And the digital unconscious could not be controlled. So there was no unconscious other than that people thought that they were communicating to the TV unconscious, because they thought, you know, the savvy young hacker would think that the average American is dumbed down by the TV environment, and they would try to conflict or wake up the consumer from the TV unconscious, but they didn't recognize that the TV unconscious was what people engaged in willingly. They made themselves dumb as an art form. So we can look at the word subconscious as also acting dumb, acting like a somnambulist, and that this created wealth. So to begin to understand the complexity of what Marshall said about the subconscious being an art form, you've got to recognize at least three unconsciousnesses or subconsciousness that are being orchestrated by the Android meme. And the deepest unconscious was the Android meme itself, and the unleashing and freeing of energies that people found quite ecstatic, the orgy of expression that could be possible, especially under Web 2.0. The disturbances of that are not really understood or not of any concern. Maybe the only people of concern in terms of the Android meme unconscious is Wall Street or the managers of the economy, whoever those entities are. I mean, there's all kinds of rumors that there are digital groups that make sure Wall Street doesn't collapse. So it's well massaged. You can have the up and down fluctuations, but not a end of catastrophic collapse. So they're concerned about maintaining the Android meme. So that means, as that becomes more understandable, that there has to be a new environment which is unconscious. So we would call that the McLuhan unconscious. You've got the chemical body unconscious, which marketing tries to exploit. You've got the TV unconscious, which is based on polls and focus groups and trends. And then you have the digital non-unconscious, because people are enjoying any form of expression on there. There's nothing unconscious going on. But then there is the whole complex itself called the Android meme, and that is of concern to the elite, which has to maintain the illusion that it is not vulnerable. But when you go, that'd be the digital unconscious. No, let's call that the Android meme unconscious. So you've got the chemical body unconscious, the TV body unconscious, no unconscious in the digital body, but the whole complex that the tetrad and pentad managers engage, we'll call that the Android meme unconscious, and that needs to be understood only by a handful of people. And then you have the McLuhan unconscious, which is the general pattern in history, and this is his main discovery, one could say, not the global village or the medium is the message. It's the process that a new environment is always not noticed, and therefore the previous environment becomes noticed because it is no longer in the novelty phase and not being noticed. So you know there's a new technology happening, a new environment, when people start noticing the old traditional media in new ways and playing with them. For example, you talk about in the art world, the trend is to make selfie art or just art about themselves. There's a trend in art, Gutenberg arts, that means that it's responding to an unconscious new environment right now. So the art world changes. So you know that there's a change going on because the art world changed. So the McLuhan principle, the McLuhan of unconscious, means when something new and not foreseen is happening, there's going to be changes in the past. That is where we come in. The extension of the non-physical, the iondom products that we talk about constantly on our shows, that unconscious, McLuhan's principle can be applied to. It's useful to understand why we are causing these incredible influences in many levels of society, and yet we're not noticed. We are an invisible, inaudible, unperceived environment. That's the McLuhan unconscious.
And how do you reprogram then the planet?
The planet?
Yeah, as he said, the planet becomes a new art form.
We program, I don't know if we're reprogramming, maybe we are, depending how you mean that, but we are creating a new effect in the genetic structure of humans, in the technological structure with our Coldplay, and whatever other effects that non-physical merging with the physical, known as ion, is creating, which is usually ecstatic responses, people feeling quite blissed out and energized by contact with ion. So because it's coming in with the eye cell, it's so powerful that we can upset the 3D reality, alter it in a way that people would find shocking. So it's just the fact that an invisible part of the mystery landscape has entered and is changing the world, and McLuhan's basic pattern of knowledge that you notice the older world becoming art form and people focusing on programming the older world, when that pattern's happening, you know something new is afoot.
But
that's not a Freudian unconscious or a Jungian unconscious or a Foucauldian unconscious. It's the McLuhan unconscious. It's the most useful principle to understand what's happening today and what will continue